Hi, I'm Jason Kincaid, the agriculture teacher here at Walker Valley High School. I wanted to give you all a quick rundown of some of the different things that you'll see at our open house today. The first part of the open house I wanted to talk to you about is our cucumber hydroponics station. This is a traditional hydroponics station in the fact that we use man-made chemicals for the fertilizers that we use in the water. All the plants that you see here were planted roughly 65 days ago, and they were started outside the hydroponics and moved to the hydroponics system whenever the first true leaves came about, which was somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 weeks of growth. If you notice here, these are the burpless long green cucumbers, and this is what we found to grow best so far this year. Okay, what you see here is our tank station for the traditional hydroponics station that we have here with the cucumbers. If you'll notice, there's a blue line coming out of the top of the tank. That is our main feed. And what it's doing is it's pumping from the tank just below it up to the very top of the towers. As the buckets on the very top of the towers fill up, they then drain through the clear lines to the rows below them. After the rows below them are full, they then drain back into the reservoir tank on the bottom. Okay, this is one of our cucumbers that we've been growing here. This one we've been watching since the beginning, and I'm going to leave it on the plant even though it might be a little past prime through our open house later on in the week. But we have several more that we will go around and show you now, that's smaller examples of this. All right, this is an example of one of our smaller cucumbers that's still in development now. All these flowers that you see here were pollinated by the students. We use a basic electric toothbrush, and we'll go to the different flowers, turn the electric toothbrush on, and then find another flower that's open and help to pollinate the flowers. This is our version of what a bee would do in nature. It's just a whole lot easier for students to come in and get involved with some of the hands-on stuff with the electric toothbrush here and helping the plants reproduce and make the fruits. All right, the last aspect of this setup here that I wanted to talk a little bit about is at the very top we have a very large air system which runs an air stone in each one of the tanks. That helps to keep the water aerated, and that way the cucumber plants can then take up the nutrients much more easily. Okay, this is an example of the root systems of each of these plants. They're all growing down into the water with the nutrient solution in there, and you can see how the roots are developing, filling up the whole entire buckets. Okay, the next system that I'd like to talk to you all a little bit about today is this is our aquaculture and aquaponics system that was installed and helped installed with Haponics. The first thing that we start at with these is we have to make fish emulsion, which is our fertilizer for our plants that you all see growing behind us. It's a pretty simple system. The way it was set up is pretty much flawless. We have in here somewhere around 190 tilapia that was bought and raised back in February of this year, and we put them in the water, gave them about a month or so to start making fish emulsion, which is the fish waste, and then we was able to start planting our greens, which are behind us here. I want to give you all an example of some of the fish that we have here and about what size they are. Most of them started out somewhere in the 2 to 3.5, 4-inch range. We feed them nothing but the feed like we get from our local co-op. It's the Purina brand, if that matters to anybody. And as you can see, the water is not clear like a swimming pool, all right, because it is full of fish waste. It's just about as clean as what you get out of the river, which is really not that bad. Our students come in every day and they'll test the ammonium in the water, they'll test the nitrates in the water, and they'll test to make sure the pH is okay. If there's anything that needs to be adjusted, we have different ways that we do that. So here, if you could hold my mic for a second. Here I'm going to get one or two of the fish out. Maybe you can zoom in and see kind of what we're talking about when we talk about tilapia. Okay, this is just a few of them we was able to get out just a few minutes ago. Okay, those are the different sizes we have now. I'll try to get one of these out, let y'all get a better idea of how big they are. Okay, there's one of our tilapia. Okay, the premise of this system is pretty basic. We have an exhaust and our intake. Our intake is where the water is being pumped from the far end of our deep water culture beds back into the tanks. If you notice here, the water is slightly green and slightly brown. You're going to have some algae growth in these, and it's pretty typical. Here's our exhaust, and this is where all the water gets filtered back in and then goes down to our deep water beds. And like I said, it's pretty simple. The last part of the tanks here is we have our air station. Okay, that is our air station, and it is fed by one commercial grade air pump. Okay, from our exhaust valve that you had just seen, the water then comes down to our deep water culture beds here. These have been in place since about February, and the water's been circulating since then. This is an air line which comes from our commercial air pump, and it comes down here and it goes in under, and we've got 4 or 5 in each of these beds that's keeping the water moving and keeping the water aerated. Here you see some basil that we planted in these beds somewhere around 6 or 8 days ago when they were planted as plugs. As you see, they're doing pretty well. So in the last 7 days, we've had this amount of root growth on our basil. In our cups, all that we're using here is our clay pebbles. Clay pebbles have no nutritional value whatsoever. They're just there to give the roots something to grow around. And we're doing pretty good here with the basil. One thing that I wanted to show you is if you look down towards the end of this bed, that basil was planted there about 35 days ago. So this is the difference between a plug planted in here roughly 7 days ago and then what's had about a month worth of growth here. We also harvested the bed at the end 7 days ago. Along with it, we harvested 3 other of the pallets worth of kale and loose leaf lettuce. We weighed all that and we was able to get 47 pounds out of those. We had to go ahead and harvest it before our open house, and I'm sorry you guys didn't get to see that. We did leave some of the kale up here for you all to see, kind of get an idea of how much plants we were able to grow in this amount of space, and only using fish waste and fish emulsion for fertilizer. Now, some of the different things that our students do in the greenhouse, we'll come down and we test the water. We will check the plants daily. Our students have been responsible for all of the harvesting, and we've turned all of the greens over to our cafeteria, and those have been served in our meal programs. They've been making kale chips that's been on the salad bar. All of the greens, the romaine lettuce, the loose leaf lettuce, garden variety lettuce that we've been using has been chopped up and put into the student salads over the past 3 weeks. And if you look here on this side, we planted these seeds 7 days ago. Okay, all we did was take our clay pebbles and put into the net pot. After that, we was able to sprinkle 4 or 6 different seeds into the very center, and then on top of those seeds we put another 1/2 inch of our clay pebbles. That allowed the seeds to stay wet but not submerged in water. And here's an example, like I said, of a 7 days worth of growth on, this is garden variety loose leaf lettuce. We bought this from Knox Seed in Knoxville, Tennessee for $1.50 a packet, and overall I think we've only used so far this year about 4 packets. So that's about $5 worth of seeds that we've used this year, and we've already harvested somewhere between 40 and 50 pounds worth of lettuce and kale off of this. So that gives you an idea of what you can produce. Our kids have really benefited from this. They really like testing the water, but then they also like getting the loose leaf lettuce, and some of the kids have taken it home with them. Some of the teachers here have came down and gotten some from us. So we're looking at in the future being able to sell this to the public, but more selling it or giving it to our cafeteria and helping to feed the students here at Walker Valley High School. Okay, here you see an example of our Siberian kale that we've been growing. I'm going to take this one out, give you an idea of what the root system's like on it. All right, so that is our plant. These are a little past due to be harvested, but I did want you all to see the size of some of the plants that we've been growing in these systems. So there is one of our Siberian. All right, we have 2 different other types of plants that we put into our beds last week. Once our nitrates got large enough, we decided that we could probably try out and compare growing cucumbers in the aquaculture unit compared to the traditional hydroponics unit that we talked about first. This is one that we transferred over 7 days ago. As you see, he's already rooted out. And one of the experiments that we're wanting to try next year when we start back to school is planting at the same time in our traditional hydroponics and that we do in our aquaculture unit here, and then measuring the growth rates between the two, and then our students can chart and map out which would be the most productive means as far as the cost of running a traditional hydroponic system to an aquaculture system. The amount of feed that goes into the fish and the amount of growth we get out of the plant compared to the amount that we pay for our chemicals and our nutrients in our... Okay, the last system that we're going to talk and look at for just a couple of minutes is one that we've had for a little while, but we've never used for lettuce production. This is some lettuce that we have planted here, and it's gotten a little bit past due, but then again, I wanted everyone on Thursday of this week to be able to see what we do here. This is a traditional ebb and flow system where we have a pump that's pumping water up to the far side of these beds. And the far side is slightly higher than the near side, and so the water funnels back to this and then back to our holding tank. What you see here is some lettuce that we've been growing once again, so you all can get an idea of what we've been doing in here. We also have some seedlings that we started, and then we also have some coleus, some wandering Jew, and some sweet potato vines in here that we bought as cuttings, and kind of showing the kids how you can make clones here in our greenhouse management class. Here's one of our cuttings. And the kids are able to see from this how you can clone plants and reproduce plants without any sexual means. So this is lastly our ebb and flow system. As you see here, some good looking lettuce in there. Hey, thanks everybody for coming out today. We really appreciate your time, for being here, supporting our students. Be sure and check us out next year as we will be unveiling our aeroponics system and our strawberry tower. Now, after this is over, stay tuned. We're going to show you some pictures of the construction.